Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss Unit 2. Alright, Unit 1 was of Parents and Children, which was written by Bacon, right? Do you remember this? Okay, now coming to Unit 2. The Unit 2 is titled The Raman Effect. Now, whose name do you get to your mind the moment I say Raman Effect? Yeah, you're all very clever, I know this. Yes, you are right. It is Dr. C.V. Raman. Alright, he was the one who discovered the Raman effect. Now, before I talk about Raman effect and explain to you about the different aspects of C.V. Raman, let me ask you something. Alright, what is the difference between these two words? I'm going to put them on the board. You read it and think about it. Alright, the first word that I want you to tell me is discovery, and the second word is invention. Okay, I want you to recollect, think about it and tell me, is there a difference at all? Is there a difference between discovery and invention? Yes, is there a difference? There is a difference. When I've asked this question to many of my students, they said there is a difference, but they were not able to explain or let me know what exactly is the difference. Alright, so I'll try and explain this to you because this is something that you're going to learn in Raman effect. I said Sir C.V. Raman discovered Raman effect. Alright, so he discovered it. So we are basically going to talk about discovery in this video and not about invention. But I would want you to understand what is the difference between discovery and invention. Discovery, for example, discovery is something which is already existing. Okay, something which is already existing but nobody knew about it, and when people found out the already existing thing, that is called discovery. Now I'll give you a few examples of discovery. Now I have a few examples here. Discovery is fire. Fire actually existed but nobody knew it. It was discovered when the early humans, they rubbed two stones together, they brought out fire. So fire was already there, fire was already existing. So rubbing of those two stones brought about fire, and they discovered, oh yes, when I rub two stones, fire is being it's coming out of that to that friction, fire. So that was a discovery. Fire already existed, but they discovered that it happens through friction. Alright. The second thing that I have here is the wheel. My God, the wheel is such an important, such a unique discovery. Wheel. The wheel, wheel which is used for your two-wheelers, four-wheelers, a bullock cart, a wheel, the potter's wheel. Wheel is a discovery. Wheels, huge wheels in machinery, in big factories, there are certain, things which are impossible without the wheel. So many machineries running on the wheel, right? As I said, the mode of transport for us runs on wheels. So wheel was another discovery. They knew, all these, raw material for the wheel existed. They had to discover those material and put them all together and form a wheel. So wheel was also a discovery. The next thing that we have is gravity. Now who doesn't know gravity? Did we, until and unless Newton found out that there was gravity, did we know what gravity was? Which means gravity already existed. Like Newton's discovery was when the apple from the tree, instead of going up, it fell down. That was what Newton actually realized. He noticed, isn't it? Why is the apple only falling down? Why isn't it going up? So he did not know that there was gravitational force around him. This was discovered by Newton. So discovery is something that is already existing, but it is brought to our notice after research and study. Alright. So Newton studied. There must be something that is pulling the apple down and it is not going up, isn't it? And there are some students who are so bored and so irritated of studying Newton's laws. They say that instead of falling down, the apple should have fallen on Newton's head, isn't it? Okay, that was a joke. Fine. Right, next one that I have here is antibiotics. Antibiotics in this period of lockdown are so important, isn't it? Antibiotics actually, cure infection, cure the spread of one's diseases. There are so many. Antibiotics are made out of something which is already existing around us, right? So antibiotics was another discovery which actually helped mankind. In the olden days, before the antibiotics actually, came up, antibiotics, I can also talk to you about penicillin, the penicillin injection. A very, very popular, very, important discovery by Alexander Fleming. He discovered the penicillin injection. Now, how did he discover this? It was discovered through a bacteria which was already existing. A bacteria was existing, and out of that bacteria, he found out that this penicillin injection can be actually created and given to human beings. When this happened, during the period of war, during the period of the First World War, or prior to that, when people were wounded in the war, they used to bleed from the hands, from the legs, and this bleeding, because of the sharp iron, weapons that were used, would cause, would cause infection in their hands and their legs and wherever they were injured, and this, resulted in a lot of infection, pus formation, blood clots, and people gradually died. So many military soldiers, died not because of the piercing of the arrows in their heart, or in their head or something. It's just because they were wounded, and these wounds would not heal. Okay, and this was the time when Alexander Fleming, discovered that through the bacteria, the penicillin injection could actually be, given. It can be formed and it can be given. So antibiotics are very, very important, and a very, very, important discovery. And one last thing that I have on my discovery, these are just examples. There are plenty of discoveries. Okay, I'm just giving you a few because of the constraint of time that we have. The next one is, I have taken some popular discoveries, alright? And the last one that I have on my list here is stem cells. Now, stem cells is gaining a lot of importance, and is becoming very popular of late. Maybe sometime around 11 and 12, 2011 and 12. Stem cells actually, people started getting information about what stem cells are. In fact, even I did not know what stem cells are. Very recently, maybe a few years ago, I understood what stem cells are. Stem cells actually, are in the umbilical cord of the mother, which connects the mother and the baby in the womb, the umbilical cord. And this umbilical cord, we have a bank now, the umbilical cord bank, or the stem cells bank. What they do now, the doctors, they store the umbilical cord of the mother. Usually, what happens is, once the baby is born, the umbilical cord is cut and it is thrown away, until it was discovered that the umbilical cord is life-saving. It is life-saving. There are so many cells in the umbilical cord, like the muscle cells, the brain cells, because that is the cord which is connecting the mother and the baby, isn't it? So many important and very life-saving cells are in the umbilical cord. Now, this was discovered. This was discovered by scientists and doctors, that the umbilical cord cannot be just thrown away. It is very, very crucial to save the baby's life in future, in case you store the umbilical cord. So they have a bank now, a stem cells bank. Even the popular actress Aishwarya Rai, she has also stored her umbilical cord in the stem cells bank. These days it is getting a lot of popularity, and many people are doing it. All the deliveries that happen now, they are saving the umbilical cord in the stem cells bank, because, as I said, it can cure diseases like Alzheimer's disease, and then it can also cure diseases like paralysis. Once a person has this attack of paralysis, I have seen so many people dying with paralysis. They suffer throughout, as long as they live. Sometimes, at a very young age, people have this attack of paralysis, where, the hand and the leg, usually it happens to the left hand and the left leg, where, there is no movement in the left hand and left leg. Life is so difficult for such people. They need support and help, and they are constantly dependent on somebody else for any of the things that they would like to do. So people, gradually die out of paralysis. Paralysis cannot be cured unless, and these days, of course, we have a lot of advancement in science and technology. Lots of medicines have come up, and the cure is also, happening gradually. But then, earlier people had to die with paralysis. But now, the stem cells, the umbilical cord which is saved in the bank, the stem cells can actually produce cells which are called muscle cells. Okay, even if some problem with the brain, there are also brain cells in the umbilical cord. All these can help the child, whoever is suffering, or even an adult who's suffering. If the mother has been intelligent enough and wise enough to save the umbilical cord, they can be saved in case they have any problems with their muscles or with their brain or with their body. Different types of muscle cells, are available in the umbilical cord, which can be extracted and be helped in curing the patient. So this is again a very very popular discovery these days, very helpful, and as I said, life saving. So these are discoveries. Now coming to inventions. Now what is an invention? Invention is something that you create out of your own idea, out of your own opinion, out of your own creativity. Invention is something that never existed. It's not like a discovery. Discovery is something that existed and we were not knowledgeable about it, we were not aware of it. Somebody had to discover. Okay, another example to give you about discovery is the Ajanta and Ellora caves. The Ajanta and the Ellora caves range back to something around 14 to 1500 BC. That was the time when Ajanta and Ellora caves were existing. And gradually what happened is they were dumped underground. Lot of soil and mud over that. It was underneath. And what happened is archaeologists, when they were digging the areas where they had this awareness that there must have been something there, when they started digging, Ajanta Ellora caves were discovered. They discovered there is a huge architectural wonder beneath the earth. And that is how they dug up and they brought Ajanta and Ellora caves to existence, which means they did not construct it then and there, isn't it? It was existing somewhere in the 1400s and 1500 BCs, which was excavated. The archaeologists excavated it and brought it into existence, something that existed, isn't it? Now, invention is not like that. Invention is something which is not existing. You are inventing, you are creating it with your own ideas, your own creativity, your own thoughts. That is invention. Now, for the list of inventions that I have here, the most popular invention, life is impossible without it. What is that? I spoke about this even in my earlier videos. What is it? What is that one thing without which life is impossible these days? Yes, you are right. It is your mobile phone, isn't it? The mobile phones. Mobile phones is an invention. It is an invention, it is a creation, it is a wireless, connectivity device, isn't it? So wireless connection is also an invention. People had to invent how to communicate wirelessly. And once they invented the wireless communication, they came up with headsets and, landlines where, you were able to communicate to one another. Even your landline, even your telephone, the landline telephone is a invention. Mobile phones are an invention, computers are an invention, printing press is an invention, something that can be printed, isn't it? And then I have airplanes. Airplanes is an invention. Wright brothers, began the invention of airplanes. They decided, let's make people fly, and they invented it with their own creative idea. And then I have another example for invention: electric cars. We never thought that a car would function on electricity. We only knew about petrol and diesel, but then electric cars were also an invention. The automobiles are inventions. So there are so many. The list is never ending when we come up to inventions. So we have discoveries and we have inventions. I hope I have made you understand what discovery and an invention is. Fine? Okay. Now here in the lesson called the Raman effect, let me put it here on the board. The Raman effect. This is unit 2 of your textbook, and Raman effect, as I spoke to you earlier, was discovered by C.V. Raman. Alright. Now when we start doing the unit 2, you'll understand certain facts about C.V. Raman, and also you will learn about his experiments and how he discovered the Raman effect. To start with, let me introduce Sir C.V. Raman to you. C.V. Raman comes from a very humble background. He was born in a small town called Tiruchirappalli in Tamil Nadu, and he was basically a South Indian. He was a student who was very interested in studies from his childhood, and then his area of interest was basically physics. he was very interested in studying the physics subject. I have also found many of my students who are interested in different subjects. There are many students who love maths. Maths is something which is very dangerous for me. I'm very afraid of learning maths. I'm very very poor at maths, and that gives me jitters. It makes me scared. Maths exam tomorrow used to give me nightmares this night. I was I would be unable to even sleep in the nights. But then when it was English, I used to be very happy because I loved the subject English, and that is what I'm teaching you. So like that, different students have different areas of interest. And as I said, C.V. Raman was interested in the physics subject. Now this interest in physics subject also has a background. Now what is the background? His father was a physics teacher, and that's how C.V. Raman, gathered that interest in physics. Looking at his father teaching and looking at the different books that his father used to, have at home. His father used to have a library of physics textbooks. So sometimes, Raman used to read those books from his childhood, and this is the way he was attracted towards the physics subject. So he started doing a lot of research in the area of physics, and while doing this research, he actually came up with this topic called the Raman effect. Now, another aspect that you have to understand about C.V. Raman is, I am sure you must have heard about the UPSC exam. UPSC exam, yes, the Civil Services Examination. And there are students who give up 1 and 2 years just to train themselves and empower themselves to study and learn and appear for the civils exam. Many of my students, 1 complete year, they have devoted only to prepare for the civils examination before they actually attempted to write it. 1 full year of training, and there are some students who spend lakhs and lakhs of money, rupees, towards these training centers, study centers, where they teach them how to write the entrance of civils exam, because it is a very hard nut to crack. So it means it's not a cakewalk. It is quite difficult to actually qualify in the civils examination. Alright, there's so much to study. You need to empower yourself with all the general knowledge and subject related knowledge. Such a lot of hard work is required to crack the UPSC exam. And here C.V. Raman, look at how intelligent he was. He cracked the UPSC exam, and he got a deputy collector's job in Kolkata. Previously it was called Calcutta. So he became the deputy collector. Just imagine, so much of hard work, so much of intelligence, so much of knowledge you have accumulated, you have gone through the examination, you qualified the exam, you qualified the interview, and you landed in a deputy collector's job. Who would think of giving up a job like that? Definitely not us, isn't it? We would definitely not give up a job like that. But then C.V. Raman gave up this job of a deputy collector. He just gave it up because he was passionate about physics. He wanted to research and study and do so much in the area of physics that he just gave up the job of a deputy collector. He just gave it up just to pursue his career in physics. And once he came up with the Raman effect, then I thought, yes, maybe he took the right choice of giving up this this job of a deputy collector. And then after he gave up this job of even as he was a deputy collector, he was he was doing a lot of research, studying a lot of physics books, and though he was busy during that time, he still took some time off to study physics. And gradually he decided that he's going to give up on his job and pursue his career in full-time research in physics. And that is the time, when he took up physics as his career, that was the time when he discovered the Raman effect. Now I am going to do this unit 2, the Raman effect, in my next video. Alright, this was just an introduction about C.V. Raman and the point and the 2 words which I was discussing with you, discovery and invention. So in my next video, I'm going to help you understand unit 2, the Raman effect, and for my next video, I would want you to sit with your textbook so that you follow whatever I read in the textbook. Also, don't forget to maintain a notebook and a pen to write down the meanings of difficult words, or also to write down important aspects which I am going to discuss about C.V. Raman. Thank you so much.